Hotep. This is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. We'll get it started here on YouTube as well. All right, how's everybody doing? And I was trying to broadcast on Periscope because I haven't broadcasted on Periscope in 2 years, apparently. And I was having problems trying to broadcast on my phone, so I'm broadcasting on YouTube on my phone. How's everybody doing? Okay, trying to test this out as well. And we're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, the African History Network. All right, so everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page and your YouTube channel, and invite your friends to tune in also, okay? All right, so I wanted to talk about this story. This story broke August 9th and August 10th. We saw articles about this dealing with Johnson Publishing Company, the iconic publishing company that brought us first the Negro Digest in 1942. Johnson Publishing Company was founded by John H. Johnson. Then it brought us Ebony Magazine in 1945, Jet Magazine in 1951. Also the Ebony Fashion Fair, cosmetic lines as well. They filed for bankruptcy, Chapter 7 bankruptcy. The press release was released April 9th, okay? And you saw a lot of stories about it. So I wanted to deal with this. I was really busy this past week, and I did not have a chance to do a broadcast about it. One. Two, I wanted to do some more research on it as well, okay? So everybody share this broadcast on your YouTube channel and Facebook channel, and invite your friends to tune in also. We're broadcasting on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, Michael Imhotep. So I'm trying to check this out as well. Let's zoom out a little bit, okay? All right, so here we go. I looked at a number of different articles dealing with this, and blackenterprise.com has a good article, thegrio.com. I went and looked at John H. Johnson's obituary from 2005, August 9, 2005, also from the New York Times, because I've done a lot of research on him in the past as well. Okay, so let's look first at the article from TNJ.com, which is, and they're labeled as Black Professional and Small Business Magazine, the network journal, TNJ.com, Black Professionals and Small Business Magazine. They have an article, Johnson Publishing Company, the ex-publisher of Ebony and Jet magazines, filed for bankruptcy, okay? Now, first of all, if you've been following this story, you know that Ebony Magazine and Jet Magazine will continue to be published, okay? So this does not impact the publishing of Ebony and Jet, okay? Number one. Ebony and Jet were sold in 2016 to a Texas-based company that is actually African-American owned. All right, so Johnson Publishing Company, whose iconic Ebony and Jet magazines chronicled African-American life for decades, has filed for bankruptcy and plans a court-supervised sale of its assets. Now, Johnson Publishing Company is a 77-year-old company. It was founded in 1942 by John H. Johnson, who was the grandson of former slaves. And Johnson Publishing Company sold Ebony and Jet almost 3 years ago. It was in 2016 that they sold Ebony and Jet. And if we look quickly here at the article from thegrio.com, they sold Ebony and Jet in 2016 to a Texas-based Black-owned investment firm called the Clearview Group, So Ebony and Jet are still African-American owned, okay? If people, because I saw people back when the sale took place, they were saying, oh, you know, we don't own it anymore. No, it's still African-American owned, okay? And this was reported by the Chicago Sun-Times, the Grio.com, the site in the Chicago Sun-Times. And a firm formed a new subsidiary, Ebony Media Operations, LLC, which continues to publish Ebony and Jet Magazine today, okay? Read the article from thegrio.com. Former publisher of Ebony and Jet magazines files for bankruptcy April 10th, 2019. We'll post a link to these articles here on the thread of the broadcast also, okay? How's everybody doing on YouTube as well? All right, we're trying to broadcast live from YouTube from my phone because I'm broadcasting through Facebook Live through Zoom. And you know, with Zoom, you can only either broadcast through Facebook Live or YouTube, one at a time. You can't do both. So I may need to go back to Crowdcast, because with Crowdcast, you can broadcast on Facebook Live and YouTube at the same time. But Crowdcast costs more money per month than Zoom. So I'm trying all of this out. All right, so when we look at the press release that was released by Johnson Publishing Company, they said while the process is now in the hands of a Chapter 7 trustee, the incredible, of a Chapter 7 trustee, Johnson Publishing Company is grateful for its 77 years of existence and the unwavering loyalty, dedication, and commitment of its employees, vendors, and customers. The incredible legacy and impact of Johnson Publishing Company will always be honored and hold a proud place in the African American experience. Now, Johnson Publishing Company has between $10 million and $50 million in assets, as well as $10 million to $50 million in liabilities, according to the bankruptcy filing made in Chicago. Okay, and they listed somewhere, they listed over 200 creditors as well. Creditors listed in the filing include retailers Hudson Bay and Macy's, and former Johnson Publishing CEO Desiree Rogers. Okay, Johnson Publishing was founded in Chicago in 1942 by John H. Johnson. In November 1945, he launched Ebony Magazine, and before that, it was actually in 1942 he launched the Negro Digest. We're going to deal with some of that history in just a minute. What I want to do, let's go to the actual press release. And African American business owners also post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast as well. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network, okay? And we have people watching us on YouTube as well. We have Benita, some other people watching us on YouTube. So those on YouTube, share this broadcast on your YouTube channel, etc. Invite your friends to tune in also. All right. So somebody said, why don't African American entertainers get together and buy Johnson Publishing Company? Don't know, maybe they will. We do know Ebony and Jet is African American owned, okay? It was sold in 2016 to a Texas-based Black-owned investment firm called the Clearview Group. All right, so let's look at the press release that came out, was released April 9th, 2019 from Johnson Publishing Company, LLC. In an effort to maximize the value of its assets for the benefit of all of its creditors, and after many unsuccessful attempts to restructure, obtain alternative financing, or sell the company as a going concern, Johnson Publishing Company, LLC, has today filed a voluntary case under Chapter 7 of the Bankruptcy Code. The decision was not easy, nor should it have been. JPC, Johnson Publishing Company, is an iconic part of American and African American history since our founding in 1942, and the company's impact on society cannot be overstated. A confluence of adverse events and factors outside of the company's control led to this decision. So they list a few of these conditions. One, the failure of the purchaser of the company's media division to make required payments. The failure of the purchaser of the company's media division to make required payments. Two, the bankruptcy of one of the company's largest retailers. Three, increasing competition from e-commerce in the cosmetic business, okay, because they have the Ebony Fashion Fair cosmetic line. And four, a costly recall resulting from receiving products with quality issues from one of its manufacturers. In short, Johnson Publishing Company was caught in a tidal wave of marketplace changes and business issues, which despite exhaustive efforts could not be overcome, okay? Could not be overcome. All right, let's adjust the camera here on YouTube. All right, so the Chapter 7 case will provide a court-supervised process. It is the company's hope that the Chapter 7 trustee will embark upon this process with a view toward maximizing the value of the assets of Johnson Publishing Company through a sale of such assets for the benefit of the company's creditors. A group with a proven track record of advancing cultural preservation, supporting community-based businesses, and building and operating legacy brands has offered to purchase certain assets, and the offer will be presented to the trustee for evaluation. Let me repeat that. A group with a proven track record of advancing cultural preservation, supporting community-based businesses, and building and operating legacy brands has offered to purchase certain assets, and the offer will be presented to the trustee for evaluation, because Johnson Publishing Company is selling off its assets, including its archives of photographs. It's about 4 million photographs in their archives, okay? Now, while the process is now in the hands of a Chapter 7 trustee, Johnson Publishing Company is grateful for its 77 years of existence and the unwavering loyalty, dedication, and commitment of its employees, vendors, and customers. The incredible legacy and impact of Johnson Publishing Company will always be honored and hold a proud place in the African American experience. The filing was made today in the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Northern District of Illinois. Okay, so this press release came out April 9th, and prnewswire.com has this press release on their website. We'll post a link here on the thread of the broadcast so you can read the press release in its entirety, okay? African-American business owners also post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast, and we'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and it helps us to keep doing the research, stay on the air, finance the African History Network radio show. We do Sunday nights, finance the research, and pay the bills, etc. Okay. If you're looking at my shirt, it's an Ankh. I got this back in 2010 from the African Village. Okay, an Ankh when the African Village had their convocation here in Detroit. All right, so let's continue with this, and we'll do with some of the history of Johnson Publishing Company also. Let's look at some of your comments here. Okay, photograph needed to be in a museum. Which photograph? They have an archive of 4 million photographs. All right, so let's continue here. Let's go back to the article from TNJ.com, the network journal, okay? And then we'll also look at the one from the Washington Post, and we'll look at the obituary of John H. Johnson back in 2005 from the New York Times. All right, so the company has between 10 million and 50 million in assets as well as liabilities. Johnson Publishing Company was founded in Chicago in 1942 by John H. Johnson. In 1945, he launched Ebony Magazine, a monthly lifestyle magazine, which was based upon the layout of Life magazine and Look magazine, okay? It was similar to that. 6 years later, Jet, a digest-style publication that initially was billed as the Weekly Negro News magazine, began publishing. Okay, that was in 1951. Fashion Fair Cosmetics made its debut as one of the first cosmetic lines for women of color in 1973. Now, the company's mission, Johnson Publishing Company's mission, was to be the curator of the African-American experience, past, present, and future. John H. Johnson's daughter, Linda Johnson Rice, said, and she succeeded her father as CEO in 2003. She was interviewed by the Tribune, by the TNJ.com in 2014. And we know John H. Johnson passed away of heart failure at age 87 in 2005, August of 2005. Now, for years, the magazines captured the essence of African-American life with human interest, celebrity, and lifestyle photography and stories in ebony. News of African America dominated Jet Magazine. And, I don't think you could find an African-American household over the years that did not have at least one copy of Ebony and Jet Magazine. I remember we had, when I was a child, my parents had subscriptions to Ebony and Jet. I remember having them on the coffee table. I remember my grandparents had tons of Jet magazines in the basement, and everybody remembers, right, the Jet Beauty of the Week, okay? And I remember Bernadette Stannis, Thelma Evans from Good Times, was in issues of Jet magazine. I remember one time she was a Jet Beauty of the Week, maybe more than once. I also remember her being in Ebony magazine as well. So, I mean, there are iconic covers of Jet magazine and Ebony magazine. All the African-American celebrities, political figures, whether it's Jesse Jackson, Dr. King, etc. Right? So for 50 years, Johnson Publishing Company sponsored the Ebony Fashion Fair, a traveling runway show led by John H. Johnson's wife, Eunice Johnson, with designs from Christian Dior, Karl Lagerfeld, and others, modeled by African-American women and men. For decades, the Ebony Fashion Fair was the preeminent makeup brand, or fashion fair, I should say, was the preeminent makeup brand for women of color. That launched in 1973. Yet in the past few years, Johnson Publishing Company has struggled as advertisers have shifted to the digital platforms, management has changed, and assets were put up for sale or sold. So Johnson Publishing Company sold its 11-story office building located at 820 South Michigan Avenue for $8 million to Columbia College in 2010. Now, a developer bought the building from Columbia in 2017 with plans to turn it into apartments. Now, Jet Magazine became a digital-only publication in 2014. At the time, Jet Magazine had a circulation of more than 700,000 and was the third largest circulation magazine for the African-American market. In early 2015, JPC, Johnson Publishing Company, put its entire photo archive, a collection that spans 7 decades of African-American history, and included images of people like Dr. King and Sammy Davis Jr. up for sale with the hopes of getting $40 million for it. And in June of 2016, Ebony and Jet were sold to a Texas-based private equity firm for an undisclosed price. Okay, so that was the Clearview private equity firm in 2016, which is African-American owned, and the Chicago Sun-Times reported on that. Now, in its press release on Tuesday, Johnson Publishing said a confluence of events outside its control led to the company to file bankruptcy, okay, as I stated. Now, Fashion Fair and the photo archive will be among the assets to be sold through the bankruptcy process. So Johnson Publishing Company maintained the photo archive, even though they tried to sell it for $40 million, they were not able to sell it. And they still own the Fashion Fair cosmetic lines. That's still owned by Johnson Publishing Company. Ebony and Jet are owned by the Clearview, Texas-based Black-owned investment firm. So they will continue to publish. Okay, the publications of Ebony and Jet are not going to be interfered with because of this bankruptcy. Now, Company executives were not available for comment this past Tuesday. The company and its rich history in Chicago as a publishing powerhouse was the subject of an exhibition in the summer of 2018 at the Stony Island Arts Bank. Quote, Ebony and Jet was ubiquity, said Theaster Gates, who curated the exhibit. He told this to the TNJ last summer. Okay, quote, you had TV Guide, the Tribune, the Defender, and Ebony and Jet. I always thought that Ebony and Jet were done by a white company that was intentionally making a black publication because it was so everywhere. It was ubiquitous. It was everywhere. Okay, so that is the article. That's the report from the network journal, TNJ.com, Black Professionals and Small Business Magazine. Okay, that's just one of the few articles I'll share with you. We'll post a link here on the thread of the broadcast also. Okay, all right. How's everybody doing on YouTube? Benita and we have other people watching us on YouTube. You can comment also on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP on YouTube. All right, so let's look. Washington Post has a article about this as well as blackenterprise.com. Now, we know for years Johnson Publishing Company was listed on the BE 100's Black Enterprise 100 list of the largest African-American businesses. And Black Enterprise talks about, they have an article, they talk about the chapter 7 bankruptcy, and they give some background information on John H. Johnson. Okay, now, Black Enterprise named John H. Johnson as Entrepreneur of the Decade in 1987. Entrepreneur of the Decade in 1987 for building Johnson Publishing Company into a global powerhouse, chronicled as one of the greatest moments in Black business in 2017. Okay. That article noted that the founder, chairman, and publisher of the storied enterprise served as an inspirational force for generations of African-American entrepreneurs. Okay. Now, so here's an excerpt of that previous article. As an eager young man, John H. Johnson got his start when his mother used her furniture as collateral for a $500 loan to start his first publication, which was the Negro Digest in 1942. So he didn't start publishing Jet Magazine first. He didn't start publishing Ebony Magazine first. Ebony did not come along to 1945. He started with the Negro Digest. And the Negro Digest served as the launching pad for him to create the largest African-American publishing company in the world, okay? He also founded Johnson Publishing Company in 1942 as well. So seemingly there wasn't a single African-American household in the late 20th century America in which you could not find a copy of Ebony or Jet on the coffee table. And to share the impact his publications had, one can point to a powerful example that predates his inclusion on the Black Enterprise 100's 100 list by roughly 2 decades, that Black Enterprise shared in their October 2005 tribute on this legendary force. Okay, and in September 1955, John H. Johnson made a decision that forever shook the world. Not one to vacillate on any issue, he revealed to millions of people the mutilated corpse of Emmett Till. Emmett Till, who was killed August 28, 1955 in Money, Mississippi. Okay, we all know the story of Emmett Till. And they published, it was Emmett Till's mother, okay, Mamie Till Mobley, who said that she wanted his picture of the open casket, the picture of his mutilated body, to be published. She said she wanted the world to see what they did to her baby. Okay, and Jet Magazine published this. All right, so so Emmett Till was a Chicago youngster who had been bludgeoned and shot in Money, Mississippi for reportedly whistling at a white woman. So readers found the heinous example of Jim Crow brutality on the pages of Jet Magazine, John H. Johnson's 4-year-old weekly news digest at the time, because Jet was founded, they started publishing in 1951. So this is 1955 that they're doing this. So shortly thereafter, other Black publications followed Jet Magazine's lead in publishing the photos of Emmett Till's brutalized, mutilated body. It galvanized clusters of African Americans nationwide to protest such senseless acts of violence. In one bold move, the determined 37-year-old publisher, John H. Johnson, 37 at the time, helped launch the civil rights movement. And other articles talk about this, how this really galvanized and really launched the civil rights movement. So some people, and also their coverage of the Montgomery bus boycott, which started December 5th, 1955, and lasted 381 days. So some people start the Montgomery bus, some people start the civil rights movement with Rosa Parks refusing to give up her bus on the Cleveland Avenue bus, December 1st, 1955, okay? Others started with the murder of Emmett Till and the coverage of his killing and the trial that took place as well, okay? And the coverage of his killing and his funeral, etc., that Jet Magazine did. So because this really helped to galvanize African Americans. And this took place before the Montgomery bus boycott, okay? So a lot of people start the modern day civil rights movement with the killing of Emmett Till. And it was African-American media, newspapers, publications like Jet, that really worked to get the story out of Emmett Till, really worked to get the story of Emmett Till's killing out. But then also they covered the sham of a trial that took place of Roy Bryant and J.W. Mellon, the two white men who killed Emmett Till. Okay, it was an all-white trial. They found both men not guilty of killing Emmett Till. They deliberated for less than an hour, okay, and found the two white men not guilty. Everybody knew they killed them. And then a couple of months later, the two men who killed Emmett Till, they did an interview for Look Magazine. They did an interview for Look Magazine. They were paid $4,000 for that interview. And in the interview, they admitted to killing Emmett Till. But because of double jeopardy, they could not be tried again because they were found not guilty of the killing of it. But in the interview with Look Magazine, they admitted to killing Emmett Till. Okay, so, and once again, this infuriated people. All right. Okay, so that's an excerpt of the article from blackenterprise.com. They have a good article dealing with John H. Johnson and Johnson Publishing Company, okay? Now, when Johnson Publishing Company first appeared on the BE 100 list in 1973, JPC grossed $23.1 billion. In 1987, it had grown to an enterprise that grossed $173.5 million and employed 1,800 people. Despite its size and stature, it was still very much a family-owned business. John H. Johnson's wife, Eunice, among other areas, ran the Fashion Fair cosmetic line, and his daughter, Linda Johnson Rice, rose through the ranks eventually to take its helm, okay? So that's part of the article from blackenterprise.com. With bankruptcy filing, an end of an era at Johnson Publishing. That's written by Derek T. Dingle, April 10th, 2019. So check out that article also. All right, if we look at some background information on John H. Johnson, okay? Just bear with me because I have a lot of articles here, a lot of made notes, and I've studied John H. Johnson before, so I want to try to make sure I give you some good background information on this story, okay? If we look at the obituary from the New York Times, August 9th, 2005, They talk about John H. Johnson, who used his mother's furniture as security for a $500 loan to start the business empire that eventually included Ebony Magazine and Jet Magazine. And that made him one of the nation's richest and most powerful African-American businessmen. Now, Johnson had major holdings in book and magazine publishing, cosmetics, television, and radio. How many people remember the Ebony Jet showcase that came on TV? And it was, if I remember correctly, it was Tom Joyner who hosted it. This back in the 80s, the Ebony Jet Celebrity Showcase. That's what it was called. The Ebony Jet Celebrity Showcase. How many people remember watching that? All right. And it was hosted by Tom Joyner. Now, this is before I remember watching this, but I really know who Tom Joyner was. Okay. And this made, I think it started before he started the Tom Joyner Morning Show. I know who Tom Joyner is now. I've met him before. Okay. But back when the Ebony Jet Celebrity Show, to show you how long ago this was, Tom Joyner had some hair back when it aired. If you go, they probably have some episodes, they probably have some clips on YouTube. Tom Joyner had hair back, back when the Ebony Jet Celebrity Showcase originally aired, okay? All right, how's everybody doing? How's Jessica doing on Facebook? Adrian, just a few people watching this. Okay, share this broadcast on Facebook and on YouTube. Invite your friends to tune in also, okay? African-American business owners, post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast, and we'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network on the podcast of our radio shows, the African History Network show, and some broadcasts we do throughout the week. We're on 8 different podcast platforms. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, okay? And we can get you up and running today. All right. So in 1982, John H. Johnson became the first African-American on the Forbes Magazine's list of 400 wealthiest Americans. 1982, John H. Johnson, founder of Johnson Publishing Company, founder of Ebony, founder of Jet, became the first African-American on Forbes' list of the 400 wealthiest Americans, okay? So as he sometimes said he was, so I'm going to share some of this obituary with you. This is from the New York Times. He sometimes said he was in the business of inspiring people, heralding achievements like the first Black woman to become a Rhodes Scholar, or the Black man who sent 3 daughters through medical school. Okay, now, you know, ain't for African Americans who understand Cecil Rhodes, right? And Rhodesia, which became Zimbabwe, being a Rhodes Scholar, ain't nothing to celebrate. But okay, I understand. It's an article. Okay, I understand. Okay, I'm not gonna beat up on them too much. All right, let's go. I have it pulled up here, so let's go from I have it pulled up on my computer, the article as well. So as the magazines that Ebony used as models, Life and Look magazine, because Ebony magazine was styled after Life and Look magazine. Life and Look magazine don't exist anymore. They don't exist today. As they slipped away, Ebony maintained a large presence in African-American households, and in 2004 had a circulation of 1.6 million. Now, John H. Johnson also published other magazines, including Ebony Man. Who remembers Ebony Man? I had a subscription to Ebony Man. So they talk about John H. Johnson. They don't even talk about Ebony Man anymore. And how many people remember Ebony Jr.? I had a subscription to Ebony Jr. when I was a kid, right? This John H. Johnson was a giant. His company's Fashion Fair Cosmetics brand is among the leading makeup and skincare companies for women with darker skin. Okay. Now, John Harold Johnson, the H stands for Harold. He was the grandson of slaves, or former slaves, was born in Arkansas City, Arkansas on January 19th, 1918. So the same year World War I ends, 1918. The year before the year before the Red Summer, in 1918, is towards the beginning of the Great Migration, which basically starts in 1915. He was a boy when his father, Leroy Johnson, was a sawmill worker, and Leroy was killed in a sawmill accident. His mother, the former Gertrude Jenkins, married another mill worker. John H. Johnson attended a segregated school, but the town lacked a high school for African Americans. He repeated 8th grade rather than dropping out of school. Now, in 1933, he and his mother visited the World's Fair in Chicago and decided to stay. His stepfather later joined them. The family lived on welfare and then on what his stepfather earned in a New Deal public works program. So the New Deal during World War II, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, signs the New Deal in law. This creates the Minimum Wage Act of 1935, the Social Security Administration of 1935. It creates the Federal Housing Administration of 1934, the Homeowners Loan Corporation of 1933. It creates things like the GI Bill of 1944. All this comes out of the New Deal, okay? And this is during World War II. All right, so his stepfather earned a New Deal public works program, okay? And John H. Johnson got part-time work in the National Youth Administration, another New Deal initiative, okay? He also starred academically at an all-Black high school and was president of his class and editor of the school newspaper. Now, when he graduated in 1936, he spoke at a dinner held by the Urban League, and Harry Pace, president of the Supreme Liberty Life Insurance Company, was so impressed with John H. Johnson that he offered him a job and a scholarship to attend the University of Chicago. Okay, so how many people are familiar with Harry Pace? So Harry Pace he was the president of Supreme Liberty Life Insurance Company. But Harry Pace is also known for founding the Pace Phonograph Corporation, which sold record recordings under the name of the Black Swan Records label. And the Pace Phonograph Corporation was the first African-American owned record company. Some of you have heard me talk about Harry Herbert Pace before, and we've posted articles about Harry Herbert Pace and the Black Swan Record Company, which was founded in 1921. Now, if you saw the movie, I forgot the exact name of it, but it was Queen Latifah. It was on HBO, and she was portraying I can't remember. It's a blues singer. I can't remember the name of who. It'll come to me. Who was that? It was I can't remember the name of it. What was the movie on HBO Queen Latifah was portraying? I have to look it up. It escaped me. It was a blues singer that Queen Latifah was portraying. Let me pull it up here. Movies. Bessie. Okay, Bessie. Is Bessie, not Bessie Coleman. Is Bessie, who was it? Queen Latifah, Bessie Smith, that's what it is. Because Bessie Coleman was the pilot. Bessie Coleman was coming to mind. No, it's not Bessie Coleman. That was the pilot. Okay, Bessie Smith, that's who it was. Okay. So if you saw the movie on HBO with Queen Latifah portraying Bessie Smith, there was a scene where she was wanted to be signed by a record label. And the people who were reviewing her, they were African American, but they were all like very light skinned. Harry Pace was depicted there. He was portrayed there, and it was the Black Swan record label. That's Harry Pace was the founder of the Pace Phonograph Company, which founded the Black Swan record label. They are depicted, portrayed in the movie Bessie. Okay, so it's Harry Herbert Pace, who also was the president of the Supreme Liberty Life Insurance Company, who hears John H. Johnson give a speech at a dinner held by the Urban League, and he offers John H. Johnson a business, offers him a job in the insurance business. Okay, so just a little background information on Harry Herbert Pace. Okay, he was the founder of the first Black record company, Pace Phonograph Corporation, which sold recordings under the Black Swan Records label. Harry Herbert Pace was born on January 6, 1884 in Covington, Virginia, the son of Charles Pace and Nancy Ferris Pace. His father was a blacksmith by trade and died while Harry was still an infant, leaving him to be raised by his mother. Harry Pace graduated from elementary school when he was 12 years old and finished at Atlanta University 7 years later as valedictorian. Dr. W.B. Du Bois was one of Harry Pace's instructors. After graduation, he worked in a printing company. He also worked for banking and insurance companies, first in Atlanta and later in Memphis, Tennessee. In 1912, Harry Pace, after moving to Memphis, Tennessee, Pace met with W.C. Handy. The two men became friends, writing songs together. During this period of time, Harry Pace met and later married Ethelind Bibb, Ethlynde, Ethelind Bibb, B-I-B-B. Okay, when was the last time you heard a woman named Ethelind? Okay, but you know these are some old names, all right? Now, Harry Pace and W.C. Handy formed the Pace and Handy Music Company together and worked with composers such as William Grant Seal and Fletcher Henderson. Pace moved to New York to manage the sheet music business, but later decided to form a record company. Pace Phonograph Corporation, Inc. was founded in March of 1921 with $30,000 in borrowed capital. The label Black Swan Records was named after Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield, a famous 19th century entertainer known as the Black Swan for her singing. Ethel Waters became the first major African-American artist on the label when she signed a recording contract in the summer of 1921. When you see the movie Bessie, you have Bessie Smith, portrayed by Queen Latifah, performing for them. And it's a group of, they're sitting at a table. She performs for them. There's a bunch of really, really light-skinned African-Americans. No offense to light-skinned African-Americans, right? And she then gets a letter from Harry Pace saying that they're not going to sign her to the record label and they're going to go with Ethel Waters. Ethel Waters became the first major African-American artist on the Black Swan record label, okay? Now, Ethel Waters' records and subsequent touring brought fame and money to the fledgling company, Black Swan Records, as she played shows with big names like Louis Armstrong and Joe Smith. By the summer of 1922, the company, which had began in Harry Pace's basement, now had a staff of 30 employees, including its own eight-man orchestra. Because see, back then, you ain't had no sampling, right? You ain't had sampling. You had all that was organic music. When you recorded music, you had a live band. It wasn't beat machines and all this other stuff, right? It was live music, okay? So they had their own 8-man orchestra. They had 7 district managers in the major cities and over 1,000 dealers and agents in locations as diverse as the Philippines and the West Indies. So this is back in 1922, okay? See, a lot of people that don't study history mistakenly think we couldn't do anything before Dr. King and Rosa Parks in 1955. No, this is 1922, okay? This is at the height of racism also in this country. The Ku Klux Klan had been rejuvenated because of the movie The Birth of a Nation, which debuted February 8, 1915, which rejuvenated the Ku Klux Klan. World War I, World War II, 1914, 1918, 1919, the Red Summer. You had over 25 major race riots in this country. 1921, June 21st, 1921, the attack, the massacre in Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma. All right. This is 1921, 1922. They're doing all of this. Okay, so in its first 11 months, it had built the initial $30,000 investment into an income of over $100,000. Okay, this is the Black Swan record label. Now, the Pace Phonograph Company was renamed the Black Swan Phonograph Company in 1923. Despite the demand for its records, the company had not anticipated. I see, this is what happens. This is how innovation can knock you out the box when you don't understand trends in the market. And see, my degree is in business administration with a major in marketing. So these are some of the things that we had to learn. We do case studies on businesses. These are things that we had to learn, right? So despite the demand for its records, the Black Swan Phonograph Company had not anticipated the advent of radio as a popular medium for listening to music. Since Harry Pace had not developed connections with radio stations, its music did not reach the radio airwaves. In December of 1923, bankruptcy was declared and the Black Swan catalog was sold off the following year, 1924, because he didn't perceive this coming trend, right? That changed music, radio. So now people can listen to the music on radio stations. Now, radio, if you don't have the relationship with the radio stations, it can kill your record label. If you have the relationship with the radio stations, it can cause you to have record revenue, because now people can hear your songs on the radio. Now, they couldn't download it. Okay, they ain't had digital downloads back then. Okay, they couldn't download it, but they could go to the store and buy your record to increase the demand. But if you don't have those relationships, you can't do that. And then what happens is they're hearing all these other artists on the radio, so they're going to buy their records and not buying yours because they're not hearing your music on the radio. So he got pushed out of the market. Okay, so December 1923, Harry Pace, founder of the Pace Phonograph Company and founder of the Black Swan label, the first African-American record label, they filed for bankruptcy. So Harry Pace could take some solace, however, in the fact that the Black Swan label had opened the door for thousands of African-American musicians to get recording contracts with the companies that remained after they saw the enormous profit that these artists could generate. A number of Black Swan artists went on to successful careers with companies that would never have hired them before. Harry Pace also moved on to open the Northeastern Life Insurance Company, which became one of the largest Black-owned businesses in the North. He invested in numerous business ventures, such as opening a law firm in Chicago, Illinois, after he received a law degree. So this brother, this brother was a visionary also, Harry Pace, okay? He gets a law degree, he starts an insurance company as well, but he founded the first Black-owned record label as well, okay? So this is Harry Pace. All right, check out the article from blackpast.org, entitled Harry Pace, P-A-C-E. We'll post a link here also. This is something, I've posted articles about Harry Pace in the past, so I already knew about him. So when I was reading it years ago, going back to, because I printed this article up, the obituary, I printed this up November 4th, 2014. So when they mentioned Harry Pace, I already know who he is, okay? So Harry Pace hires a young John H. Johnson to work at the Supreme Life Insurance Company after hearing him speak at an Urban League dinner. So you never know who's watching you. You never know. See, success is where preparation meets opportunity. This is what I teach, my entrepreneurship students, because I taught entrepreneurship for a number of years. Okay, success is where preparation meets opportunity. How are you preparing yourself to take advantage of opportunity? This is the same thing when the movie Black Panther came out. And you had African Americans talking about some of them. And you know, I've done 3 lectures dealing with the film Black Panther. I've been on panels dealing with this. And you had some African Americans saying, oh, you know, it's making all hundreds of millions of dollars, no money made by the Black community. That's a damn lie. No, you didn't make any money. No, there were African Americans across the country who held screenings of the film, and they were generating revenue from the screenings. There were those who were selling Black Panther comic books. There were those who owned stores that sold African garb, and there were numerous stories. BlackEnterprise.com had stories. There were stories coming out of Atlanta. We covered a number of these stories with African American business owners talking about the huge increase in sales they had from people buying African garb to go to the premiere of the movies. They're also selling, and see, the movie premiered February 16, 2018 during African American History Month. That's called good strategy. My degree's in marketing. Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay. So you had all of this. When you look at the production, when you look at the production of the movie, right? A lot of that movie was filmed at Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta. Last time I checked, Tyler Perry was African American, right? So he got paid for that. When you looked at the advertising, there was massive advertising on TV One. There was advertising on news1.com. That opened the weekend. They had huge ads on the front, the homepage of news1.com. They had to pay for those ads. That generates revenue for African American owned businesses. Let's take it to another level. There were tons of articles that African American media outlets wrote. TheGriot.com, YourBlackWorld.net, because I'm a contributor to YourBlackWorld.net, News1.com, The Griot's owned by Byron Allen, AtlantaBlackStar.com, Afro.com. If you go look at African American news outlets, they were writing tons of articles dealing with the film Black Panther. Those articles generate revenue for them from the ads that are sold. So there were a number of different ways that African American businesses made money from the film Black Panther. Okay, the film generated it injected about $89 million into the Georgia economy. They hired 3,000 people in Georgia. A lot of them African Americans, everything from caterers to hairstylists, all different types of things, extras. That's in the making of the movie. Deadline.com had an article about this. So I read, so to be able to do the lectures that I do on the film Black Panther, and to be able to go deep into it from the 11 African cultures that infuse into the movie to what the word Wakanda really means, to understanding the background history. I had to study the 52-year history of the Black Panther comic book, read over 100 articles dealing with the film, dealing with the comic book. I watched numerous interviews with the cast members and director Ryan Coogler, okay? So I had to do deep research to be able to do the presentations. And I researched the economic impact that it was having on African-American businesses as well, okay? So success is where preparation meets opportunity. So we found out in 2014 the movie was coming out. So how did you prepare yourself for success? Then in 2016, Captain America Civil War came out, which debuted the Black Panther character played by Chadwick Boseman, 2016. So we knew Black Panther was coming out 2018. How did you prepare yourself? Success is where preparation meets opportunity. All right. So African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast and email us at customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise on the audio podcast of our shows and our broadcasts throughout the week. We're on 8 different podcast platforms. We're on iTunes, Castbox, Stitcher, FM Player, TuneIn. We take a 30-second to 60-second commercial, put into the audio podcast of our shows. Each episode, we get thousands of listens across the country. If you don't have a commercial, we can record one for you at no additional charge, okay? Customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Our current promotion is get 3 months for the price of one. Get 3 months for the price of one. Email us today. We can get you up and running today. All right. Jessica said Black Swan record label company 1930. That would be around the time Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers were popular. Now, Frankie Lyman and Teenagers come later. They come like in the 50s, not 1930. No, totally different era. Totally different era. Black Swan, that goes back to about 1921. Okay, not 1930. And the phonograph company filed for bankruptcy in 1923. Okay, Madge Scott said Bessie Smith. Yeah, Bessie Smith. Okay, let's continue here. All right, so that's some background information on Harry Pace. Okay, let's go back to the obituary from John H. Johnson from New York Times. That was from August 9th, I think it was, of 2005. Okay. All right, so Harry Pace, and okay, so so the family lived on welfare, and then on what his stepfather earned in a New Deal public works program. Now, John H. Johnson got part-time work in the National Youth Administration, another New Deal initiative. He also starred academically at an all-Black high school and was president of his class and editor of the school newspaper as well. Okay, so we see the journalistic side of him having a foundation going back to when he was in school. And you know, when I was in middle school, I wrote for my school newspaper. Okay, Drew Middle School in Detroit. I took a journalism class in 8th grade and wrote for the school newspaper in 8th grade also. Never thought I'd be in radio, not at that age. Later on, I wanted to be in radio. But back at that age, never thought I would be in radio. Okay, how's everybody doing on YouTube? Let's see who we have. We have Richie, yeah, Bessie Smith, Kofi, EQ, Hotep. How you doing, brother? Hotep is an offering of peace in the ancient Medu Neter language, the ancient language of the ancient Egyptians. And those who see this is an Ankh. Ankh is the African symbol of eternal life. A lot of people refer to it as the African key of life. It's the African symbol of eternal life. You'll see these Ankhs in ancient Kemet. You'll see these when you look at the Medu Neter, when you look at symbolism coming out of ancient Africa, you'll see the Ankh. All right. So when John H. Johnson graduated in 1936, he spoke at a dinner held by the Urban League. Harry Pace, president of the Supreme Liberty Life Insurance Company, also founder of the Pace Phonograph Company and the Black Swan record label, was so impressed that he offered him a job and a scholarship to attend the University of Chicago. Now, this time, 36, this is after Black Swan files for bankruptcy, all that stuff. That was in 1923. So John H. Johnson dropped his studies at the University of Chicago, though he later took a course at Northwestern University School of Commerce. He became editor of Harry Pace's internal company magazine, okay, the internal company magazine of the insurance company. Since the insurance company catered to African Americans, John H. Johnson spent much time culling and digesting articles on Blacks from other publications. He married Eunice Walker in 1941. She became Eunice Johnson. She and their daughter, Linda Johnson Rice, president of Johnson Publishing, surviving him, along with a granddaughter. His son, John Harold Johnson Jr., who had sickle cell anemia, died at the age of 25 in 1981. Now, in 1942, while John H. Johnson was still an employee for Harry Pace at the Supreme Life Insurance Company, he persuaded his mother to help him borrow $500. She used her furniture to mortgage $500 off the value of her furniture. Check this out. John H. Johnson asked 20,000 of the Supreme Life Insurance Company's policyholders, their customers, for $2 to subscribe to what at the time was still a non-existent magazine. This is brilliant. When you study how this brother did this, man, this is brilliant. This is a case study, okay? The magazine was not Jet Magazine, it was the Negro Digest. That started in 1942. 1942, he starts the Johnson Publishing Company. But this is what he did. He goes to the customers of the Supreme Life Insurance Company. He asked 20,000 of the company's policyholders for $2 to subscribe to a magazine that didn't exist. About 3,000 people said yes. Damn, that's a hell of a closing ratio. You get 3,000 out of 20,000. That's a hell of a closing ratio. That's $6,000 in 1942 for a magazine that don't even exist. That's brilliant. That June, he published the Negro Digest, which was modeled after the Reader's Digest. This is before Jet Magazine. Jet Magazine don't come along till 1951. This is before Ebony. That doesn't come along in 1945. This brother marketed a magazine that don't even exist to 20,000 people. He got 3,000 yeses. Damn. All right. So, and this is how Johnson Publishing Company started. So to get the magazines on newsstands, check this out. This brother was brilliant. To get the magazine on newsstands, he got 20 friends to go to the magazine newsstands and ask for the magazine. These are friends of his. He created his own demand. The newsstands then called distributors and asked for this magazine. After his friends bought the magazine, then John H. Johnson resold the magazine. So they go to the newsstand, say, hey, you got the Negro Digest? You got to get the Negro Digest, man. What's up? So they call the distributors to get the Negro Digest. They go buy it, give it to him. He resells the magazine. You see why he was the first African American on the Forbes 400 wealthiest African American. He was the first African American on the Forbes 400, which at the time was the list of the 400 richest people in the country. He was the first one. This is brilliant. Okay. So the same strategy was applied in other cities. And within a year, the Negro Digest had a circulation of 50,000. This dude's brilliant. He took the same strategy to different cities, and within a year, the Negro Digest had a circulation of 50,000. So inspired by his success, John H. Johnson began planning a magazine with flashy covers like Life magazine. Okay. He said that his goal was to quote, show not only the Negroes, but also the white people that Negroes got married, had beauty contests, gave parties, ran successful businesses, and did all the other normal things of life. Because see, at the time, you know, we're being dehumanized in media, we're being dehumanized in music. If you go back to 1916, there was a song by Harry C. Brown. Harry C. Brown recorded a song on Columbia Records called N-Word Love a Watermelon, ha, ha, ha. You're going to have songs like this that come out, and what it did was it used the melody of an older song called Turkey in the Straw. And that melody is still played today by a lot of ice cream trucks around the country and come through our community. The song is on YouTube. Harry C. Brown, 1916, Columbia Records, N-Word Love a Watermelon, ha, ha, ha. That's the name of it. Go listen to it. So at a time where we're being dehumanized, at a time where this is before the civil rights movement, but you have, you know, civil rights go back to 1865 and 1866. If you watch the documentary Reconstruction on PBS by Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr., they talk about these bills. And the Civil Rights Act of 1966 was the foundation of the 14th Amendment of 1868. Okay, so you have to understand this chronology of history. Okay, so he and his wife, Eunice Johnson, came up with the name, his wife, Eunice Johnson, was the one who came up with the name Ebony for Ebony Magazine. The first 25,000 copies immediately sold out. This is in 1945, okay? And it was in, I think, November, I think it was, in 1945. Yeah, November 1945, okay? He publishes the first issue of Ebony Magazine. So Ebony Magazine's advertising was distinctive among African American publications at the time because it promoted general merchandise as well as products like hair straighteners aimed at African Americans. I'm not a fan of that. Ebony strove to glamorize consumption, at first with cover girls, and some suggested the effect was to play down serious issues at a time African Americans were still excluded from many areas of American life. But readers were glad for the uplift. John H. Johnson started Jet Magazine in 1951 to highlight news of African Americans in the social limelight, politics, entertainment, business, and sports. And I remember so Jet Magazine came out every week, whereas Ebony came out once a month. And I remember in Jet Magazine, they would have the pages, something like this week in, was it this week in Black Life or something like that, this week. And they would tell you what happened each day of the week that pertained to African Americans. They would have it listed. I mean, Jet Magazine was a powerful publication. All right. Okay, so 1951, he publishes Jet Magazine to highlight news of African Americans in the social limelight, politics, entertainment, business, and sports. In 1973, John H. Johnson started the Fashion Fair cosmetic lines, after models in the Fashion Fair touring fashion show. His wife's project had trouble finding dark makeup. So you had the Ebony Fashion Fair fashion show, okay? But because the models in the Ebony Fashion Fair fashion show had a hard time finding makeup for African American women, they create the Fashion Fair cosmetic line targeting African American women. In 1990, John H. Johnson told the New York Times that he was not altogether happy that 12% of the readers of Ebony and Jet were white. He said, quote, "This is more than I would like to have. I want to be king of the black heel, not the mixed heel," end quote. He also advised young African Americans against joining a white-owned corporation unless they were satisfied with being vice president. He said, "But if, like me, you're temperamentally unsuited to that and want to reach the top, do something else," end quote. Okay, so that's from August 9th, 2005. That's the obituary of John H. Johnson from New York Times. John H. Johnson, 87, founder of Ebony, dies. This is from August 9th, 2005. Okay, we'll post the link here also. What happened here? Okay, so at his funeral, then State Senator Barack Obama spoke. So he dies in 2005, okay? And because I think he was a state senator then. If we look, let's see, the article from thegrio.com and the article from the Washington Post both quote him here. Okay, we'll go to the article from the Washington Post in just a minute. How's everybody doing? On YouTube, we have Karna. Greetings, thank you for sharing. Okay, everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. How's everybody doing? If you like this type of information, also you could donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. This helps us keep doing the research, finance the research, finance the African History Network show, etc., pay the bills. Paypal.me/the AHN show, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can also send it through PayPal, the AHN show @gmail.com. And if you could, use the friends and family option as well. Also, at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, we have all of my DVD lectures there. We have online courses that I teach that are all on demand. And we have a special promotion. You get the 10-course online bundle pack that includes Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. That's a 14-hour, 7-session online course. That's all on demand. You get that in the Black Panther 6 DVD bundle pack. We have that all on sale right now. That bundle is $80, regularly $180. Okay, that's on sale right now. Let's try to plug this up. Okay, that's at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, let's continue here. Okay, so President Barack Obama, when he was a state senator of Illinois, said the pages of Ebony and Jet filled a void. They showed young black men that their fates did not hinge on, quote, some menial job or getting involved in crime, end quote, and that, quote, strong, capable black men were out there, end quote. He said that, quote, when I was growing up, basically the only black men on television were criminals or Flip Wilson dressed in drag as a character called Geraldine, end quote, okay. After John H. Johnson's death, the Reverend Jesse Jackson told the Chicago Tribune that Johnson's lasting contribution was that he, quote, put a human face on black people. He put a human face on black people, end quote. He, quote, gave us our first mirror to see ourselves as people of dignity, a people with intelligence and beauty, he said, okay? And let's see, his obituary sometimes, okay. There were 2,000 mourners at John H. Johnson's funeral. And let me see something here. When Barack Obama spoke at the, okay, yeah. So we look at the article from thegrio.com, and let's see what happened on YouTube. Can y'all still watching on YouTube? Are we still broadcasting on YouTube? Let's see here. Okay, I think we're still broadcasting. I know the battery was running low and I had to plug up the phone. We'll be here for a few more minutes. Of those inspired by the progressive publication was former President Barack Obama, who spoke at John H. Johnson's and his company's, he spoke at John H. Johnson's funeral, okay? And he said those words that I just shared with you, okay? Thegrio.com has that article as well. All right, and lastly, let me look at the Washington Post has a big article. Johnson Publishing Company, the ex-publisher of Ebony and Jet Magazine, files for bankruptcy. Okay, so Johnson Publishing Company, 77 years old. The publishing company itself, we know, founded in 1942. And I'm just looking through it to see if there's anything I didn't get to. Okay, the brand pointed to Johnson Publishing Company pointed to a number of factors outside the company's control. I shared the entire press release with you. And it said it had to pay for a recall that stemmed from quality issues from one of its manufacturers. We talked about that. They listed more than 200 creditors. Okay. Let's see here. Both publications regularly. Oh, okay. So when we look at Ebony and Jet, both publications, let's see here, where are we? Okay, so both publications regularly reported on African-American success stories, but also confronted pervasive racism in the United States. Ebony's first issue included an editorial that called for equal employment opportunities after World War II, according to Chicago Sun-Times. And in June 25th, 1941, President Roosevelt, because during World War II, this is President Roosevelt. June 25th, 1941, President Roosevelt signs Executive Order 8802 into law. And what this did was it desegregated Defense Department jobs. And a lot of African Americans are going to get jobs up north in factories, okay, producing military equipment for the U.S. for the war. Executive Order 8802 was signed because Roosevelt was forced to sign it by A. Philip Randolph, who was the president of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. A. Philip Randolph threatened to put 100,000 African Americans marching on Washington to embarrass Roosevelt if he did not desegregate those jobs. Okay, Britannica.com has an article dealing with Executive Order 8802, June 25th, 1941. And this is what happened. A. Philip Randolph leveraged the power that he had being the head of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters to push this issue, to push an agenda to desegregate these jobs. It opened up a lot of jobs in the Department of Defense, which helped lift a lot of African Americans out of poverty, put them in the middle class. Okay. All right. So, quote, the Negro soldier and sailor want to come home to an America that was wiped out, that has wiped out the white supremacy practices, which meant the downfall of Hitlerism in Germany, the editorial said. This is an editorial in Ebony Magazine's first issue, okay? They want to come home to a United States where a job no longer has a color. And we know in 1955, Mamie Elizabeth Till Mobley, mother of Emmett Till, she called on Ebony and Jet to show the world what had been done to her son. Jet Magazine printed a photograph of Emmett Till's body in his coffin, the disfigured head, the bloated head, all of this. Historians point to that decision as a focal point in the civil rights movement. Okay. All right, so you can check out the rest of this also. Okay, let's go to some of your comments here. I wanted to get to this. There's a lot of history dealing with Jet Magazine, John H. Johnson, all of this. There's a lot of history here. I mean, he could be a case study, you know, in African American business school classes. All right, let's look at some of your comments here. Let's see. Okay, Richie, Bessie. So you can post your comments on YouTube if you have any questions. Cheryl on Facebook, Jersey Girl here. Willie, hello from West Memphis. Okay, how you all doing? Post your comments if you have questions, if you have any questions. Be sure to listen to the African History Network show Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. And we broadcast right here on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. We upload the videos to our YouTube channel as well. And remember, you can register for the online courses I teach. They're all on demand. Watch at your own pace. We have a 10-course online bundle pack right now that's on sale $40, regularly $130. It includes Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. That's a 14-hour, 7-session online course. We deal with thousands of years of history, deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, deal with the origins of the transatlantic slave trade, how it started. We deal with ancient Egypt as well, and deal with the Africans known as the Moors, who take the knowledge from ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, the light from ancient Egypt into the dark continent, which was Europe. And it's going to be the Moors that bring Europe out of the dark ages into what they call the Renaissance, which is a new awareness. They bring them into an age of enlightenment. Unfortunately, this leads to the transatlantic slave trade happening. It leads to Christopher Columbus setting sail on his 4 voyages, August 3rd, 1492. He set sail on Nina, the Pinta, and Santa Maria. And, you know, with the basically the invention of Europeans inventing the first firearm, mid-14th century, about 1346, based upon technology that the Moors introduced into Europe, called a fire stick. That was a long stick that fired one projectile. It was pretty much all downhill from there. If you, I mean, Okay, Cheryl said, I'm late. I can watch the video later. Yeah, but the online courses are all on demand. Watch at your own pace. Watch from around the world. It's streaming. Watch as many times as you want to. So we have the 10-course online bundle. It's on sale, $40, regular $130. And then we have the 10-course online bundle along with the Black Panther 6 DVD bundle pack. That's $180 value. That's on sale $80. You get all that for $80. That's all at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay. All right. And somebody said they just came in late, so they're going to watch the video later. Yeah, you can do that also. And if you like this type of information as well, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. You want to donate 10, 15, 25, 50, $100. That really helps the African History Network, helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, broadcast, finance the research, finance the African History Network show, pay the bills, etc., etc. You can also set it up for a recurring donation if you want to. And this helps me when I have to travel to events, pay my way there, pay my way back. This helps to cover those travel expenses as well. Just like when I was speaking in Baltimore at the Baltimore Natural Hair Care Expo 2 weekends ago, that helps to cover costs like that. Speaking of Black Swan Records, have you read the book Rhythm and Business by Norman Kelly, B. Buccaneer? I've read some of Rhythm and Business. I do have that book. I ordered it. I was reading an article about Bob Law, legendary talk show host Bob Law. And Bob Law was talking about the white papers Columbia Records had. The Columbia Records in like the late 60s, early 1970s. Went to Harvard Business School and had them do research on the independent Black music industry. And they went to Harvard's Business School and had them do research on this, and they produced these what are known as white papers. And Harvard's Business School was teaching Columbia Records how to take over the independent Black music market. And this is what they did. And it's talked about in that book, Rhythm and Business, okay? And I saw an article where Bob Law was talking about this. So I Googled it, did research on it, came across the book, and I ordered the book. And I did 2 interviews with Bob Law also. I had to put those, because I have tons of interviews I've done, like radio interviews I've done. They're podcasted on our Blog Talk Radio page, the African History Network show. If you go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com and click on listen to podcasts on the homepage, we have over 900 podcasts going back to 2010. Only have a fraction of them on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. I need to take all those and put them on our YouTube channel, because I have tons of interviews with everybody from Dr. Francis Cress Welton, Dr. Claude Anderson, Dr. Richie King, Professor Joseph Ben Levy, Dr. Riketti Amen, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor James Small, Professor Kabahaya Wafa Kamene, Booker T. Coleman. I have tons of interviews. So I had to, Dr. Layla Africa, Queen of Fua, I had to take all those interviews. Dr. Sebi, interviewed Dr. Sebi once. I had to take those interviews and put them on our YouTube channel. Those interviews will blow you away. Okay, so Rhythm and Business, yeah, check out that book. Okay. Also, Dr. David Imhotep have 11 interviews with Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence, that deals with the African presence in this country going back at least 51,700 years ago, long before the transatlantic slave trade existed, long before Native Americans came to this land. Okay. The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence by Dr. David Imhotep. Go to his website, historictruth.info, historictruth.info. Also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, we have on DVD, the double lecture he and I did together back in 2013. You can order that as well. EQ said, is David Imhotep's The First Americans Were Africans revised version ready yet? Would I purchase it? check out his. I have to call him and see is it ready yet. But check out his website, historictruth.info. Historictruth.info is his website. Okay, historictruth.info, and he'll have information there. You can also download a 2-page abstract of his first book. His first book is brilliant, backed up by 713 footnotes, fairly documented an African presence in this country, going back at least 51,700 years ago, and going back at least 56,000 years ago in Brazil, in South America. Okay, Cheryl said thank you. All right. Okay, guys, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Also, you know, we have a bunch of bundle packs. We have the Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen bundle pack. I think it's with 15 DVDs, 15 DVD lectures. That's on sale 50% off, 14 DVDs. We also have the John Henry Clark bundle pack as well. Dr. John Henry Clark. We have a ton of DVD lectures. I have a lot of my bundle packs there as well. This all helps to support what we're doing. Also, I'll be shipping out a bunch of orders this weekend as well, and Monday also. Okay, so we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever, and we'll talk to you all next time. Peace. All right. All right, take care.